When I get in those states, it's pure surrender, right? I can't do what I'm here to do if I question it and I'm like trying to make sense of it, if I'm getting in my head. And as I move around someone's body where I put my hand placements, like I have to fully trust it. And when I
Mhm.
do, it's like, holy fuck, I can't believe what's moving through us.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Phoenix Perspective Podcast. I'm your host, Kori Rae, and today I have a treat for you. I have brought on one of my dear sisters, Kelly Joy. She's also known as Tashkana. This woman's Phoenix story is incredible, and I cannot wait to share with you her exploration through her sexuality, as well as challenges through her health and healing from sexual trauma, and how surrendering to these challenges in her life have enabled her to unlock a beautiful spiritual gift of vocal transmission and ancient tongue. She is a priestess and she weaves her vocal transmissions in her work to help you remember on a cellular level the things that you came here to remember. My intention is for you to feel inspired by Kelly's story and to remember that sisterhood and being connected to other women who are willing to hold space for you can really make a big difference and impact in your life. Go ahead and cuddle in. We're going to be here for the next hour sharing space with Kelly, and I'm excited to bring her voice to you. Welcome to the Phoenix Perspective Podcast. I'm your host, Kori Rae Kovacs, a registered nurse and reflector in human design on a soul mission to help women like you rise from life's ashes with abundant energy, purpose, and joy. Each week, we'll meet at the intersection of science, soul, and storytelling as we create a bridge between holistic women's health, the sacred feminine, and cyclical wisdom. You'll get tools and insights from experts and guests helping you to thrive in every area of your life. So go ahead and pull up a chair, grab your favorite crystal or cup of tea, and let's rise like phoenixes together. Hello, beautiful. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited that you are here today. Thank you so much for coming on to the Phoenix Perspective Podcast and for blessing us with your beautiful, radiant light. Kelly, I'm glad you're here.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so excited.
I wanted to start off getting to know you a little bit more. So, what is really lighting you up right now, whether it's in your work or in your life?
The things that are lighting me up the most are my voice. So channeling the ancient tongue and really connecting with that and serving men and women in that delicious container, as well as diving into the dark and the kinky BDSM shadow work. I've been doing several yummy containers these past few months, and it feels like home when I go into those spaces. So it's really fun to explore that.
Oh my gosh, I had goosebumps when you said that. And it was so interesting because I feel like there's such a mirror there between the voice and the kink, right? So it's like the voice and the vagina. I was literally just thinking about that this morning, about the mirroring of the voice.
Right?
Like physically, our anatomy is almost paralleled in between those two. So it does not surprise me that you're feeling the light between the two because there's such a huge correlation. Have you noticed that?
Definitely. The unlocking happened during sexual healing trauma. So that was when that voice came through. So there really definitely is a connection and correlation to that. And like I've been guided that that is part of, my journeys that I bring people on is unlocking their erotic energy, coming into their body, coming into their aliveness through voice, through sound, through their sexual movement, and just bringing in a little bit of kink and different things to let that rise up and to heal and to awaken and activate and all the things. It's so juicy.
I think there's this combination between your voice and how we've really felt as a society, felt restricted in our voices, and then also in our sexuality. I just keep seeing these parallels as you're talking about that. And it doesn't surprise me that you have found your voice through the healing journey that you've been on,
Yeah.
particularly with sexual healing
Hmm.
is such a potent space. I would
No,
love to hear more
totally.
about that. Like, tell me about how did you get onto that path? I know so many of us when we go into like our dark night of the soul, the things that we go through, those challenges, we don't know that that's coming. But how did that come about for you?
No, I love that question and that reflection because I first kind of dipped my toe into it, like the power of sex when I was in Thailand at Montauk Chia's healing center. And so he does a lot with the sexual healing energy and all of that. And so I kind of like dipped my toe in and was like in this like gymnasium almost with all these women doing jade egg exercises. And at that time, I wasn't ready for what was to come, right? Like I wasn't aware of the sexual trauma that I had experienced at that time, but I was really like intrigued by the power of sex and like, oh, this is more than just penetration, right? Like this is more
Hmm.
than just having babies. And so then in 2020, 2021, when we had to wear masks, I started having flashbacks of sexual trauma. And yeah, that activated a lot. And I was in a lot of dissociation and like really struggling to like be in my body. And so I just got curious around looking at my experience sexually and how it was showing up in my life and just getting curious of, you know, can we heal sex through sex? And so I put that intention out and within a week a friend of mine like it all spiraled in and we started exploring that. And then there was a session that we were doing together where it was to focus on my voice for me to like ask for what I would desire or to let them know if I was enjoying what was happening, right? And that's when my voice unlocked.
How powerful. So it's so amazing because the COVID portal. I noticed that so many of us went through that COVID portal and where our true dark night of the soul, like we were experiencing it on this big, massive space and then also individually.
Yeah.
And the gifts that were born, but they were remembered. Because I
Mhm.
feel like this is something we've had before. This isn't like this
Right.
isn't new. It's just a
Yeah.
remembering.
It's still remembering and
Is that how that felt for you?
yeah, because it came through and I was like, what do I do with this? I don't know what's happening, right? Like it was worldly, right? It was from another place. And so I would like play with it in the car, I'd play with it in the shower. I was nannying at the time, so I'd play with the little kid and speak tongue to them and they would do it back to me and just kind of like play around with it. But it felt and those were in like safe spaces, right? Where I could be that expression. And so the more it came through, the more clarity I gained on it, the more I began to understand it, the more I could actually like translate some of it and it just started to really become embodied. And so I just started sharing it more and bringing it into my work more.
I think you bring up such a good point about the safety. So what happened with me during my COVID portal was my art kind of reawakened
Mhm.
and I started channeling these mandalas. And I had never drawn a mandala before. I barely knew what they were, but I was laying actually with COVID on my bed 5 days before Christmas. And I had all these gifts I needed to make for my family. And I had literally asked Goddess, I said, what do I do? I was kind of exasperated. I was like, what do I do? And she's like, you are the gift.
Mm.
Make presents. And I was like, what do you mean? And I was like, what do I make? She's like mandalas. And I was like, I don't know what the fuck to do that for, but okay. So I literally got on YouTube and started looking up how to
Right.
make mandalas. But I did. And so I was using like my cups and my plates and everything I could that was round to make these things. There was sigils that poured out of me, light language that poured out of
Right.
me, and these things like I didn't even know they were in there. And it did. It took some safety type things. Like I had to practice a little bit and I gave them a lot as gifts and I wasn't really sharing them on social media or anything at
Right.
first. But then I think it was this kind of nervous system recalibration. Just this year, I shared at our county fair a Vesica Pisces. You know what that is, right?
Mhm.
The two circles.
Yeah.
And it literally is like a pussy in the
Yeah.
middle. I mean,
Totally.
like, it's a mandala, but that's what it
Right.
is, you know? And I literally sent it to my county fair this year and I won the
Nice.
grand prize. Something about that for me that it was this expression and people were receiving something that was born through me that it does. It feels like this channeling. And so I hear you, these steps that you went through. And for anybody that's listening that's had these kind of experiences where their spiritual gifts maybe came about after or during a dark night of the soul, like there is a process that you go through. And I love that you're sharing that right now. So once you kind of went through this space of acclimating your nervous system and started doing these safe spaces, when did you start sharing that with other people or bringing it, like you said, bringing it into your work?
So at that time, it was in a high priestess container, the rose codes. So I was working with Meg Williams in her containers, and really during that, she invited me to do a vocal light language during one of our calls, and I was like, okay. So I did that, and I got to share that with the other women on that call, and the reflections that they shared of how activated it was in their body, and like how, they had goosebumps, or their wombs came alive, or their body was, convulsing and moving. And I was like, wow, this really has an impact on certain people, right? Not everybody's going to respond that way, and I've accepted that, and I know that, and I don't try to, push it on people. And so within that safe space, I started to, yeah, share with the women in that. A really dear sister goddess of mine, I was like, "Hey, can I practice on you? Can I just do this thing?" And we did one um, when we were in Las Vegas together, and I was like, "I don't know what this really is, but it feels like I need to, like, do this on your body." And then I vocal tone, and that just was like, yeah, just finding safe places and safe people to practice it on. I know I invited you in on one, and
Hmm.
we went through one, and that was just kind of early on in my stages of just, like, seeing who it would resonate with. That whole nervous system thing of, like, wow, people are accepting this. They're not like, "This is really crazy and woo-woo," or if they are thinking that, they're at least not telling me that, right? And so even if it was, "Wow, this is really something I've never experienced before," they said that in a beautiful way that was
Hmm.
still felt safe, right? And so yeah, and then I just kind of continued to let the goddess lead me to others who have wanted to receive that.
I'm almost getting emotional here because there's that point when you start feeling more confident and you're sharing it and it's this vulnerable space of, will people understand, or my intentions, like my intentions are pure, like I this is just coming through me, I'm not doing this for attention, I'm not doing this right to,
Right.
it's coming through me, and it is an energy that wants to go somewhere.
Mhm.
And but then there's that thought in your head that's like, am I crazy? Did you kind of go through that space as things started to develop?
Totally, yeah. I mean, it was a while where I was just like, "This is so fucking out there." Like, this is very woo, and, like, people are gonna think I'm crazy, and I was trying to make sense of it, like, scientifically back it up. I was like, and I'm like, "I don't know if there's anything to back it up with." I was just trying to, like, figure out ways that it would be more socially acceptable, right? I don't know what I'm supposed to do with it. How is this supposed to evolve? Like, it's just moving through me. And the more I did it, the more clarity it's gotten. And this past year, it's like really embodied now,
Mm.
right? Like when I do sessions, it's landed, and it's almost easier at times for me to speak that language than it is for me to speak English.
Girl, I feel you there. I get that. There are times when you feel like you feel more comfortable in your gift space. I feel that when I'm in my dance because I realized, when I was a little backstory here, when I was a little girl, I was in a dance company in our church, and we would, like, basically during praise and worship, we would go up in front of the altar and we would just free dance. There's no choreography or anything like that. And I've got goosebumps even thinking about it because it opened something up inside of me. It wasn't about what we were saying or anything like that
Mhm.
or the songs, but something about the movement for me I felt spirit moving through me. Of course, I use different language now, but I think it's all the same, to be honest. Like
No,
Holy
totally.
Spirit, Goddess,
Right. Yeah.
Source, sword, it's literally
It's the same.
whatever name you wanna call it. It's all the same, it's all the same. And so when I would be in that space, I would feel one with what like, it would take over my body in a most ecstatic way. And I remember I would spend hours just free dancing in my house. I danced everywhere. And then I grew up, and even though I was still in dance, like, in ballet, but I was the weird one. My body wasn't suited for ballet. I was
Right.
short, I was busty, I had a big ass and big thighs. And so they give me all the weird parts, right?
Right.
Like they did. They give me all the quirky parts. There was this message that the world told me that my
Mhm.
dance wasn't appropriate or that my body wasn't appropriate for what we were
Right.
doing or and so I stopped dancing for years until I started reawakening all of these
Yeah.
pieces in me. And I realized that, oh, the dance that was coming through me is like a type of language. It's a type of like light language. We use that term because I think we don't know what else to call it. And so I hear you. You're talking about how it's developed and how it vibrates inside
Mhm.
of you and comes alive and I think that's really what uncovering of our gifts is about. It's like playing and discovering and getting curious about that.
No, totally. Yeah, and the thing that's coming up when you're speaking about that, like, when I get in those states, it's pure surrender, right? I can't do what I'm here to do if I question it, and I'm, like, trying to make sense of it and doing all these things if I'm getting in my head. So I have to completely surrender and trust of what's moving through me, and as I move, like, around someone's body, like, where I put my hand placements, like, I have to fully trust it. And when I do, like, it's like, "Holy fuck," like, I can't believe what's moving through us at this time, but it's a complete surrender and it's a complete trust that I don't
Mhm.
that I haven't yet been able to, like, embody that into other areas of my life as much, right?
Mm. Yeah,
Right? And,
I
like,
get
that's
that.
like dance for other people, like, with dance too, it's a complete surrender of our body and not thinking and not worrying about where we're how we're moving our arm, and we're just letting that energy move through us, and it's a complete surrender to let that take over, right?
There was a phrase that I had heard in Neil Donald Walsh's book in a Conversations with God. It said something about being out of your mind. That
Right,
term has been used like you're crazy,
right,
but it's almost like that is what embodiment is. It's you stepping out of your mind, the space that tells you what is logical, that reality, what is honestly, our minds are very tricky. They actually aren't as accurate as we like to think they
right,
are. But you almost have to step out of that space and into your heart, into your womb, into your body in
totally.
order to let those things come through.
That was the steps before that led to, me allowing my gifts to be received more fully, right? Like, I was putting myself in containers where we were dropping into pleasure, dropping into self-intimacy, like, really focusing on that part of healing and being in your body, right? The most powerful thing that I have used to, like, really calm my nervous system and really regulate my nervous system is pleasure and self-intimacy.
Yeah. What a beautiful tool that is. It is a reclamation. I love Mama Gina's book. That's one of the things we've talked about so much is just this revolution that is happening and a reclamation of our power. And, I'm very nerdy when it comes to like researching and I've really gotten into like Egyptian
Mm,
sex magic
mhm.
and even other cultures and where they use the portals of our body, the portals of our pussy, the portals of pleasure to unlock the pieces that have been long forgotten. You had talked about the spaces that you've been in and the safety of those containers. And I'd love to kind of explore that area a little bit. We can refer to it as a sisterhood because there's something very special about being in a container of women. You said you were in the Rose Codes with Meg Williams.
Mhm.
And how did being in that space and having the invitation to share your gifts in that space, how did that change kind of the trajectory of your life moving from there?
Yeah. Yeah, that was a really powerful container that I was in and just really, tapping in with Magdalene codes and more of the priestess energy. And yeah, you're in sisterhood. You're witnessing each other in their darkest nights of the soul and their ecstatic pleasure. And you learn that one, you're not the only one who has these crazy ups and downs and highs and lows. So it normalizes that as a woman, so you don't feel like you're alone, you don't feel like you're crazy. It's like other women when you're in your luteal phase also experience lower energy or racing thoughts or more negative thought, like it makes you not think that you're crazy or that you're the only one who's experiencing this kind of stuff. And then just being in safe containers where they're accepting of all of who you are, right? Like knowing that if I show up crying or raging or happy as can be, all of it's accepted. And even when jealousy comes up or envy comes up, like if somebody gets the desire that you've been wanting and they receive it, it's like, well, what the fuck? What am I doing wrong? I'm in this, I'm self pleasuring and doing the things. Why isn't it coming to me? Right. So there's jealousy that comes up and you get to work through it. But you also have other women that are devoted to that same path and devoted to the same practices and tools that are willing to like hold space for you. Right. So it's this reciprocity of giving and receiving and being witnessed and being the one who witnesses and just seeing everyone's ups and downs and celebrating the lows and celebrating the highs and just yeah, being really devoted to that path.
Are you looking for a space to raise your health and vibration with other Phoenix sisters? Then come join the Vibrant and Aligned Facebook community. Inside this free group, you'll find health tips, resources, and motivation to live a life full of joy, health, and vibrancy. Make sure to check out the show notes for the link to join or search Vibrant and Aligned on Facebook. I can't wait to see you there. I think so many of us women have been in situations where we didn't feel safe being around other women. And this, I think, has been one of the biggest changes for me. I know that I struggled with my friendships with women, because of jealousy, because, I spent 10 years in the military and we were few and far between, and we were very competitive because we had to be better, stronger, less emotional. We couldn't show our emotions or anything because if we did, we were seen as weak and we couldn't lead. And it was very difficult. Healing this wound around sisterhood has been really challenging. What's been your journey with that? Did you struggle when you were younger?
I grew up in a very small town in Wisconsin, in a rural area. There were 40 people in my class, right? I lived in the country, and so I was pretty isolated. My family wasn't really connected with other like families of my same age. I had lots of brothers and sisters and lots of cousins. So I was pretty much just like in this bubble. I had friendships, but I didn't have like really close connections with a lot of the women in my group. Like we would get along and we'd be fine. There wasn't like a deep bestie or anything, right? I've journeyed through being a school teacher and working in school settings and living overseas during that time. There was definitely more of a focus around community because we were away from our families and a lot of us were doing this whole living abroad thing together. And so it was a lot of community and connection, which was really great and felt good. But when I left the school scene, a lot of those connections fell away, right? Like they weren't solidified and I was going in a new direction and they weren't on that same path and that same trajectory. So I did become the outsider, the outcast. Those relationships never continued, right? And there was a lot of judgment. I'd receive messages, "Oh, I'm so worried about you. You're like, are you okay?" And I'm like, "I'm better than I've ever been," right? Like, it's interesting other people's perspectives and what my journey has triggered in other people who aren't on a similar path of revolution of sexual freedom and liberation, right? And this empowerment of healing and transformation. Not everybody's on that journey.
This is why it's so important to get yourself around people who are in a similar path or a similar journey. We talk about being the phoenixes, being around other phoenix sisters, other women who have gone through those dark nights of the soul or have surrendered to the alchemy of life, because so many of us came here to remember things about who we are, and to step into that full potential we have to let go of the things that we, or the who we thought we were before. And
Mhm.
that also means that those relationships that were there, which served us at the time,
Right, totally.
they can also hold us back because everything has cycles. Everything
Mhm.
is in season. And this is why it's so important to be intentional with the kind of sisterhood that you
Right.
are creating.
Mhm. Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, and once I started more on this path, it's brought more like-minded people into my world, right? And so whether it's online spaces or now more in person, like I'm finding people who have similar journeys and are more accepting and curious of what I'm doing and where I'm headed. And I was at Friendsgiving this past weekend and like people wanted to hear me with my ancient tongue, right? Like they were curious about it and they wanted to know more. They were asking questions about it and I wasn't having to water it down or make it digestible. I was just showing up and sharing it authentically, and they were fully accepting of it. Whereas there's certain people that I wouldn't be so, like, forthcoming about it.
It's learning the spaces that's appropriate to show all of you
Mhm.
and navigating that can be really challenging when we do have things that are maybe not conventionally acceptable. I mean, I know in my own life as a nurse, right? Like I'm a nurse and I'm a Navy veteran. There's like these things that are kind of quote unquote socially acceptable.
Totally.
And that when I tell people these things, they're like, "Oh yeah, that's great." And then if I also tell people that I talk to trees and I
Right.
practice sex magic and I'm an oracle card reader and a body intuitive, they're like,
What?
what?"
What?
You know?
Yeah, totally.
So this is why cultivating sisterhood is really important. It's not just about having friends that are girls, like
Right.
girlfriends. Sisterhood, like you had said, it's about a container of space for you to be able to show up as you. I almost like feel it's like us opening up this field for us to be ourselves in
Mhm.
because we do have to edit ourselves so much.
Right. Yeah.
Did you ever have a point where you were intentional with this, or did you just kind of find the space and then realized I really need to have these kind of sisters in my life?
Yeah, I was really starting to come back online with the voice and, like, trying to figure out how am I going to serve this? How am I going to bring this forth? And a friend of mine, a dear sister of mine, she recommended me to connect with Meg, that she thought that she'd be a good coach for me. And so just being around another sister who knew who I was and like knew my spiritual woo woo ness. And she's like, she's on the priestess path. And I think it would be really good for you to be in a space with that. Right. And so that's what drew me to work with Meg was just her embodiment of the ritual ceremonial parts of ourselves, right? And like being able to go in and explore that and wanting to be in spaces where that part of me was accepted and like I could kind of play in that space somewhat. I don't think I had a real intention of sisterhood at that moment. I think that was kind of an unexpected outcome that came from it because I've never really felt like, "Ooh, I want to have sisterhood." I don't think I realized that the power of it and the beauty of having that in my life. So it was kind of a unexpected just addition to my path.
I love that Goddess always seems to find the way, whether she puts that desire in our hearts to be around other women or she opens up a little window, like in your case where somebody invited you to a space and then you get there and you realize, oh, my soul was yearning for this.
Right.
And it it's become essential in the next evolution for me to feel safe to
Mhm.
share my gifts, to practice that, to practice speaking my truth or speaking about how my pleasure practices are impacting me. Like even just having that container, I know for me has been really transformational. It was a couple of years ago, sisterhood had been my word of the year. I had made the intention of wanting to create connections that were deep and meaningful and putting that intention out there brought, I mean, honestly, like you were a part of that. I was kind of reflecting this morning. I was like, how did me and Kelly even meet? I
Right.
don't even remember. Do you remember? Because I don't. I was racking my brain trying to remember. But it's almost like that. It was like Goddess started bringing women to me
Mhm.
to help me feel safe to come out. I had just come out of my big, challenges and dark night of the soul, but I needed a safe space to be able
Right.
to try out my new wings.
Your first, like, how do I bring in the witchy parts and the, like,
Yeah.
medical parts and be a nurse and be someone who talks about, feminine cycles and, in a more, like, a deeper context, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm still navigating that, and this is why I created this podcast is I needed somewhere. I needed to make my own space where I could just as easily talk about hormones and periods as talking about self-pleasure, pussies, oracle cards, and tree communication, okay?
Right.
Like, because it's all of me. I love thinking and reflecting back on our sisterhood and how even having you in my orbit has given me the space to create and to integrate because you were brave to step out and you share your gift. Is a phrase from Rebecca Campbell, and it's a poem that she wrote that says, "Speak up, I can't hear you." And
Mm,
it's like every line is talking about sharing your voice and not being afraid. And she was really kind of the birth of that for me, as like I realized I needed to have some sisters in my life. Rise Sister Rise was such an
uh
impactful book. Have you ever read that book? Rise
I
Sister Rise?
haven't, but I definitely went
Girl.
through Rebecca Campbell, like,
Yeah.
just connecting with her stuff
Mhm.
for a while.
That was her first book of hers that I read, and it helped me realize that when we are brave and we step up and we share our gifts and our voice, we give permission for others to do the same. And I feel like you were one of those voices for me, like literally with your voice. And also just that support and reminding me that it's okay to be me. I really want to get kind of into your personal Phoenix story because we've talked a little bit about you healing through sexual trauma, but I feel like in a lot of Phoenix stories, it's not just one thing. It's never just one thing. It's never just one area of our lives,
Right.
right? It's like literally everything has to crumble down in order for us to be rebirthed. So you've been really open about your health journey, and I would love to hear about how your health journey has returned you to ash and then helped you rebirth yourself.
It's been a ride, right? I would say that I've had multiple deaths this past year. And yeah, it's about a year ago. Yeah, a year ago December is when I returned to Colorado, or the end of October of 2024. I found myself lying on a kitchen floor by myself with blood coming out of my ass. And I
Mm,
was laying in a pool of blood. And in that moment, I questioned calling for help. I
mm,
questioned if I was worth saving or if I was to just see what happens, right? Like, it was this really profound moment, but also very deeply sad and grief-stricken moment of why would I even, like, question that? Like, how
mm.
could I even question that? So I finally did get up and I did call for help, and the ambulance came and was in the hospital for a few days, then came home and the same thing happened a few days later.
Now, for listeners who may be listening for the first time, can you share a little bit about kind of the background?
Yeah, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease in like 2013, 2014. So I had issues with it throughout my like teaching career, and I ended up a month out of work when I was in Germany. Like, they didn't know what was wrong with me, and I was just like bedridden. And Germans have impeccable health insurance, and so they're like, just go home and rest. And every week I'd go back to the doctor and like, just go home and rest. And so I was like resting in bed for a month, and then I finally just started feeling better. And then in Tokyo, it happened again where I ended up being in the hospital for a month. I ended up bleeding for like 21 days. And again, they finally were able to just one day it stopped and I was able to go home and go back to work. And then, so I took a year off and went to graduate school, which I knew I didn't really want to go back to teaching, but I was like, I can't just take a year off. I have to do something. I have to like be productive and do something in my career. So I went to graduate school. At the end of graduate school, I started having issues and I moved to Abu Dhabi. And by November, I was in the hospital again for a month. And I was like, I can't keep doing this. And that's when I resigned from teaching and moved to Thailand for a few months just to focus on healing my body. And I thought it was great. I thought I was in remission, and that was in, like, 2018. Hadn't had any issues up until last October 2024. My belief was that I no longer had Crohn's or ulcerative colitis, like, I had healed
Yeah.
myself from it, right? And then I put myself in a stressful situation. I uprooted my life here in Boulder and was like, "I'm gonna go on a pilgrimage," and I along that way, I didn't always follow what I wanted to do, and I think that caused a bit more stress on my body and finances and all the things, right? And so yeah, then it caught up with me.
One of my biggest philosophies, and I share this a lot in another episode where I talk about our bodies being teammates and how the symptoms of the things that come up in our bodies are not just physical, but they're emotional, mental, and spiritual because we are all of those things. We're not just bodies, right? And every single one of us have these unique challenges
Mhm.
that brings us along that path. And what I'm seeing in your journey is that, you went through these experiences, which any sort of inflammatory bowel disease, whether it's, ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease, they're very, very challenging for you as a listener. If you know anybody that has that, or if you yourself are, challenged with that, it's complex. It can be interruptive in your life. And there can be times when we have challenges like that where we think that our body is attacking us, like we take it personally. Were there were times where you kind of felt like that?
You know what? It came on so fast, for one, and there was a point where I was like, something's feeling a little bit off, right? For over a decade, gluten-free, dairy-free, mostly sugar-free and soy-free and corn-free and all the frees, right? And when you travel, those things aren't always as easy to adhere to. And so my diet had shifted a bit and yeah, and it just kind of came on. And also like I was really fully stepping into this other version of myself too, like with my gifts and trying to be like bring that more online. And so I think there was a multitude of things that my body was trying to communicate with me. And I think I probably went into shutdown probably pretty quickly when it happened because it was like, how was this happening again, right? Like I thought that this was in my past. I thought I had put this behind me and was good. And there was probably a bit of shame and embarrassment that I had let this happen again because it was so severe, right? Like it was. I mean, I was bleeding out on the kitchen floor in a in a foreign country. But it also forced me. Like I had to go home to my family. I hadn't seen them in 3 years, and I called up my sister and I was like, I think I need to come home. Can I stay at your home? And she opened her house and place for me. And so it's helped bring that connection back online with my sister and with my parents. And so we've been in more connection since then, which is nice, right? Like it does feel good. I would have rather not had that been the, like
Right.
the thing that pushed me to get there. And it did. So but it's been, so I thought I was there last November for the month, came to Colorado again thinking that this was behind me, things are gonna go great, like, I've got this. And then March, April, I started having symptoms coming back, and by mid-April, I was in the hospital for 2 months, and they couldn't get the bleeding to stop, so they had to remove my colon.
I follow your journey so much on social media, and I know as a nurse and also my own family, like my grandmother, before she passed away, also had uh, to have her colon removed and had an ostomy bag. Caring for her in her last year of life and having that personal experience when I was 14, and then seeing that reflection for you. I can't help but think how how much healing you are bringing to
Mm,
the collective with your experience, because we have so much shame that we carry as a society around our sexuality.
mm,
But then on top of that, like, people who have had to have ostomies, or people that have had challenges like Crohn's or UC, there's so much shame around that. And so you're like alchemizing it. And it's not just for you, but I feel it for the collective. And there was a post that you had where you were dancing, and, you were touching your body and touching your belly. And there was so much peace in your face, and the energy that you held for your body and the love that you held for her in that space was truly remarkable. How has that journey been for you since April and that transformation?
yeah. Um, a lot of surrender and trust, right? I was in the hospital for two months, so there was a lot. I'm so grateful for the nurses that took care of me. I saw many of them multiple times, and they knew who I was. So grateful for their care, and for the doctors for trying everything that they could to prevent me from having surgery. But it just like one night, it wouldn't stop, and it was like I had 15 blood transfusions within like a month and a half, maybe, or a month. It was my vampire era, right? And yeah, so there was a lot of surrender and a lot of trust that had to happen during that time. Surrendering to medication and surrendering to allowing all of these things to go into my body that I wouldn't normally put in my body, and trusting that everything was going to work out. And so there was that deep level of dropping more and more into that, and to allow others to take care of me, right? And asking for things that I needed when I needed them. There were a lot of lessons that I learned in that time, and like using your voice, that was another level of voice, right? Like I can drop into ancient tongue and do light language like that, but yet communicating some of needs or desires or asks from other people was still something that was like kind of stretchy, right? I didn't always want to ask for those things. So that was another level, and there were some deep wounds that came up when I was in the hospital. There was a moment where I couldn't get out of bed, right? Like I physically couldn't get myself out of bed. So many nurses wiped my ass and like had to like help me in so many vulnerable ways that had I not done the work that I had done up until that point, it would have been a really dark time. And I celebrated with one of my sisters of like, I didn't get depressed. I didn't feel a lot of crunch during that time. And it could have been because I was on prednisone and like I was like, like out of my body and like all this weird stuff. But like I didn't fall down that spiral of depression or the victim story or, like, this is so horrible. How could this happen to me? Like I didn't hold on to those threads and those narratives. And I was able to stay neutral or positive through the whole thing, like just trusting that this is all working out. And the first like few weeks of having the ostomy, like I didn't really attend to it. Like I was like, I'm just gonna let the nurses. I'm gonna let them deal with this and do it. I don't have the capacity for it right now. It's gonna be with me for a while, so I'll have plenty of time to like get real friendly with it. But right now I'm gonna kinda ignore it and like
Mm,
kinda just like turn my head when they come to, change it and stuff.
that's really common too, like that emotional challenge, because it's like there is a whole new way of caring for yourself, and it can be very jarring. Even though at some point somebody had said that this could be what happened if things got really bad. But it's challenging, and the surrender, you keep, bringing this point back to the surrender of the process, the surrendering of the cycle, the
Mhm.
death and the
Mhm.
rebirth,
Mhm.
right? Because it's the resistance that oftentimes creates the most suffering.
Right. Yeah, totally.
where are you now? Like, where are you in this season now? You've gone through so many of these challenges. What season do you feel like you're in?
When I got out of the hospital and my home physical therapist was visiting me, she's like, we take into recovery time is usually like 3 days for every day that you're in the hospital. And I was like, oh, that seems, it's a lot. So I like calculated it and it was like 4.5 months. And I was like, wow, that seems like a long time. And it was kind of a shock. And I was like, really? Granted, at that time, I couldn't like get myself off a standard toilet seat, right? Like I couldn't stand up off of a toilet. So I had a little elevated, toilet.
Mhm.
And it was like the 4.5 month mark where I was able to go dancing again for the first time in a dance class, right? Like finally feeling strong in my body. And, that's months of going to PT twice a week and like doing all these things to just come back to life. And I feel like I'm in the stage now of that actual like rising from the ashes and like the rebirths and like coming into my gifts and owning like being able to hold sessions now and like do one-on-one sessions with people and really feel so embodied in that. And so it's like this kind of this new breath of air as I'm coming into this beingness of who I am now and like fully feeling the fullness of who I am and being okay with, yeah, I have this pouch of life that's part of me right now and it may not be forever, but it's a part of me right now and just being in full acceptance of it.
I love that you call it that. I remember when I saw that for the first time and you called it your pouch of life. I think sometimes people can look at that and almost look at like with pity or sadness, right? But you owning that and saying, "No, this is giving me life." Literally, like had I not had medical interventions, I would have died. And so when you change the idea and you shift your perspective, right? Realizing that we have seasons for everything. And when we shift our perspective to see that an ending is also a beginning,
Right.
because now you've been able to rise, to see yourself in strength, to see you rise into your gifts even more profoundly,
Mhm.
even more embodied, like you said. Um, and so now you get to offer your gifts and your and step into your mission and your purpose even with more renewed strength than you ever did before. Yes, of course it's challenging, right? We look at these things that we go through in our lives and we're like, yeah, man, that really fucking sucked. Like,
Right.
but also maybe without those things, we wouldn't have been able to step into this version of ourselves that is now having the impact, that is now feeling connected to the thing that we were here to do in the first place. So that's what the Phoenix story is.
This has been an incredible conversation so far. And if you're a woman who's looking to create her most vibrant life, tune in for just a couple moments. Have you been struggling with fatigue, cravings, or maybe you're seeing chaotic periods or just feeling disconnected from your body's wisdom? If so, it might be time to get some soul sister support. If you're ready to reclaim your feminine power and vitality, I invite you to come check out Sacred Phoenix Wellness. At Sacred Phoenix Wellness, I help soul led women like you to lose weight, repair your hormones, and get your energy back so you can meet life's challenges like the powerful phoenix you are. Using a science based, feminine led approach, I'll support you to create a hormone loving lifestyle that actually works with your body instead of against it. If you're ready to feel like yourself again and rise into a stronger, clearer, and more alive version of you, go to sacredphoenixwellness.com and apply to work with me. Your vibrant life is waiting. Now, let's get back to the show.
I've been going into these kind of these kink, dark, shadowy containers over the past few months. And, some of the invitations have been to embody your sub or embody your dominatrix, right? And so for me to do that, I let that be revealed, right? Like I wore clothes where that was revealed because I didn't want to change the way what I was going to wear based on this new part of me, right? And so like those were stretches, right? Like that was edgy,
Yeah.
like standing in
Yeah.
front of, in a room of 30, 40 people and revealing this to people that don't know my story and don't know
Mhm.
who I am and what happened and all the things. But I was like, I need to do this for me.
I heard this the other day. There is no courage without fear.
Mm,
And it's in those times when we step into our vulnerability, when we give permission to be ourselves, to accept ourselves, and that also empowers others to accept themselves. And that's the ripple effect that we have by owning our stories, by sharing our truths, by showing up as who we are. And yeah, it's scary. Yeah, it's hard. It's not always easy. And there are going to be times when maybe we feel less open than others. But
right.
that's why putting ourselves in those containers and having those spaces of sisterhood, it's just finding and creating the spaces for us to be ourselves, because that helps us to bring what we were here to bring, or
Yeah,
to be who we were meant to be.
totally.
I um would love to do a card reading for you.
Yes,
If you
please.
are open to that. Typically when I do my solo episodes, I do a card reading at the end for the community. But here on my interviews, I want to do this for you. So
Mm,
this is from Rebecca Campbell's
yes,
deck. This is the
beautiful.
Rose Oracle deck. This is my all-time favorite deck of all life, very much priestess vibes.
Yes.
So I would love to bless Kelly with a card today. What energy would be most supportive for her? And this is what I pulled. It's called Release the Petals. It is all about transformation, death and rebirth, shedding and all change. What I love about the rose in this particular card is that the rose has to let go of its beautiful flowers in order for the rose hips, the seeds, the fruit to come forth. Same thing with like apple tree, right? Apples can't come forth unless they let go of their flowers.
Right.
And so there's this beautiful analogy of, we see flowers and we think they're gorgeous, and they're amazing, and they have their beautiful purpose, but they they know that in order for their seeds to come forth, for the fruit to come forth, for the next version of themselves to come forth, they have to let go of that thing that everybody calls pretty in order for their true essence to come through. Oh my gosh, I feel that is so fitting for what we've been talking about today. Any reflections that you have from that, or just anything that comes through
Yeah.
for
I
you?
mean, yeah, I mean, it's so spot on with what we're talking about, right? The the whole rebirth and rising and letting everything, like letting it all go and trusting, right? That the wind is going to carry us, the air is going to move us, earth is going to support us. Like we have everything that we need, and we're always fully supported. And it's just that like, and just like letting go of the stories and the things that we make up for ourselves, right? So that we can step into this next version, whether it's through a rebirth or whether it's for, just wanting to expand and be our next level self, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, for anyone who's been listening, maybe they have been struggling. Maybe they are in a place where things have been dark, or they're not really sure that things are going to start turning, up for them. What would you say to that woman right now, or that person that's
Mhm.
listening?
Honestly, it's about finding someone that can offer you support, really. Like we can do this on our own. And I've, you know, done a lot of stuff on my own as well, but it's so great to have someone hold you and support you and like, help you in those dark times. Cause, you know, one of the most powerful things for me has been self intimacy and connecting with my body and just like loving myself. Like I didn't know that that was a thing over a decade ago, right? But when we're in that deep dark depression or in that really hard space, it's hard for us to even do that for ourselves, right? Depending on where you are on that parameter, if you're able to tap in and fucking love yourself, great. Like, do that. Look in the mirror and tell yourself all the amazing things about yourself. Like, hug yourself, touch your body, just be with yourself. And if that's not accessible because of where you are at, finding a coach you resonate with, right? Someone who is embodying the stuff that you desire. I think a lot of the most powerful mentors, guides have gone through a death and rebirth. They've lived it and they're now embodying the thing that you want and you desire, right?
Absolutely. I love that. It's following the gifts that are given to you, whether that's through a friend or if you're listening to this episode and you felt a connection, just following those breadcrumbs and seeing that this trust and belief that everything is leading you to where you want to go, but just being open and surrendering to that and being willing to ask for support because we are social creatures and we were never meant to do this journey alone. I talk about rising like phoenixes together. I believe that we rise stronger when we are together. And I
Totally.
love that you brought that as well. So, how can the listeners connect with you, Kelly?
The best way is on Instagram. The Tashkana is my handle. I post mostly on there and mostly on there, but you can find me also on Facebook. Kelly Joy is my Facebook profile. Those are the best spaces to connect with me.
I truly have been blessed having you here today. It's been an honor. It's really been an honor and I appreciate you coming on to the Phoenix Perspective podcast and sharing your Phoenix story and inspiring us all with your beautiful insights and just your grounded earthiness. It's so delicious. So thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you. It's been an honor and privilege to be in this space with you. I'm so grateful to be able to share my story and my voice and my expression. I hope it lands for some people and really helps them where they're at and meets them where they need to be met. And would love to connect in other spaces.
Absolutely. So make sure you follow Kelly Joy on Instagram at the Teshkana. And we will see you next time.
Yes, I am celebrating you because you just finished another episode of the Phoenix Perspective podcast. I am so grateful we got to spend time together today. It's really been a blast. If this episode lit up your heart or sparked something in your soul, please follow the show and share it with a friend who's ready to rise too. Until next moon phase, remember, you are so worthy of living your most vibrant life. See you next time.